Good morning. Thanks for clicking on the video. It is spring and the birds are getting settled in the aviary. Very comfortable in there, and of course they are starting to think about making nests. I am not a breeder. I'm an enthusiast, I guess I would say. But I do allow the birds to breed. Last year I allowed just one pair to breed, and those were the tricolor parrot finches, and I had 4 babies, and they're now living in the aviary with mom and dad and my other birds. And I only breed birds that I can make sure that I have a home for. So I have to restrict the number of clutches that I have. The firefinches and the goldbreasts would have loved to breed, but they got dummy eggs. And so I need to slow down the breeding process. When the lighting conditions are right and the food is right and they have space and privacy and places to build their nests, they often do, whether you like them to or not. And you have to be careful, you guys know this, if you keep birds. If you take the eggs away, they lay more eggs, potentially, and then that's a lot of wear and tear on the female. So yeah, managing birds, these are not prolific breeders by any means, but they're not difficult to breed either. So so you just have to be responsible. So one of the things that I do to slow down the process a little bit is I make them work for their nesting material a little bit. I'll show you a video clip of the firefinches harvesting some moss out of the aviary where they can just grab it as fast as they want, and they can build a nest in 2 days, maximum 3 days. Parrotfinch is the same. So what I do is I put the nesting material, I make it a little bit harder for them to get to, so it takes them a little bit more time. So last year I hung these guys up in the aviary. They are suet feeders that you get at the hardware store, and I think they are perfect for putting nesting material in. But it takes them a little, they have to work at it a little bit. So rather than just harvesting stuff out of the environment, the bamboo and the wheatgrass and the, leaves and whatnot, they, they have to tug at it a little bit and stuff. So it kind of slows the process down just a little bit. Gives them something to do. So, I'm going to take the top off because I don't think I need it. And I think it gives me more options for how to hang this or even put it on the ground in the aviary. So I think I'm going to try it this way this year and just see how it goes. Okay, let me show you what I put inside. Despite what this looks like, I do try to stay organized, and yeah, I know that's not convincing, but I'm going to say that. This is my nesting material. So I'll just explain a little bit about what I'm putting in here. I should mention that if you're an experienced breeder or you're a full, large-scale breeder, you would think this is ridiculous. It is. You probably have natural materials that you harvest, big shrubs, and you put them into the aviary, or big swaths of harvested grass, that sort of thing. And here I have my little box of stuff that I put in. But I'm not confident enough. I'm concerned about harvesting stuff from the environment where wild birds may have, you know, pooped on it or something, and then introducing some kind of problem into the aviary that I don't know how to deal with. So I take things that are lightly processed, natural materials, and it feels safer to me, and it's worked out okay. So that's what I do. Okay, so this is, it's like tissue paper. It's not quite that fine, but basically essentially tissue paper. And so one of the things I do is roll it up. And then I just cut it across the roll. And it makes these little rings. I'll show you in a second. So it makes little things like that. And the birds think those are awesome. So that's one thing I do. They also like the light color. Many of the birds seem to care about the color of the nesting material. Particularly when they're finishing the nest, they love white, like white feathers, white string, things like that. Okay. So that's one thing. Random bits. Okay. This is jute. It's like a straw, kind of. Perfect. That's another thing. This is crumpled up paper that I think is used for Easter baskets, things like that. Okay, let's go with that for the moment on that side. There is no rhyme or reason to this. I'm just sticking in stuff that I've got. Okay. This is a roll of burlap, and I just cut it into cut it into squares, and you can just put this in the aviary, just clip it, and it's awesome for them to just tug little strings out of, just like that. It's really fun to watch. If you have weaver finches, that is super fun. I don't have them anymore. I used to many, many years ago, and they were fantastic at using burlap. Okay, so there's that. One edge is seamed, so I have to cut that off to get it going. And I just pull it apart. So that's a good one. Okay, there's that. Coconut fiber. This you can get in, it comes in mats like felt almost, and makes very fine, shorter little pieces, usually. The next thing is sisal rope. Just buy huge coils of it. And I cut them into, 5-inch lengths. This is a tedious process, by the way. And then I unravel it. Down to the finest sort of individual. I take each little piece and just pull them apart. This is probably one of their favorite things to build out of. It's very much like a very fine grass. It probably is a very fine grass. I should look at what sisal really is. I'm sure somebody knows. Okay, so that's that. So I usually have a couple of these in the aviary, and gives them something to do. You'd be surprised at how much material they use. I didn't save any nests from last year. I probably should have, because it would be interesting, I think, if for people who maybe are used to zebra finches or society finches. Some of these other finches build really elaborate nests. So for example, the fire finches build a nest that has a cup, and then they build a top over it. So it's a big dome. And when I mean big, I mean like this big. And so they have a side entrance, and the little nest cup is down in here. And so they have a side entrance. This is all solid. The parrot finches do a similar thing. And then the fire finches often have a little dummy nest in the top, like a little canary-shaped depression. But the actual eggs are laid in the real nest that's underneath it. It's super clever as a decoy. But they go through a ton of material, and the nests are impenetrable. So even if they build a nest in a nest box, which are the ones that sort of prefabricated, you can make your own, I have to use a boroscope, which is it's like a camera on the end of a flexible but self-supporting tube. So you can feed it in and look inside the nest, and that's the only way I could check on the eggs or the babies, because it's, I'll show you in a different video what that looks like, but because it's impossible. You'd have to open the nest box and then cut out the top of the nest material, and it's kind of disruptive, and I don't have the confidence really to do that or I didn't last year anyway. Okay. So, enough about that. That is my little collection of nesting material. They will go through a lot of it, and I'll show you what I do inside the aviary, but I'm going to clean up. Yeah, that's it for that at the moment. Always make a mess, no matter what I do. So you might be wondering, do you have to do all this, messing around? No, you don't. I do it for fun. I like taking care of my birds. So if it seems over the top, it is. On purpose. Okay, what else? So I talked about I'll show the closed nest box and the open nest box, or half closed nest box pictures in the aviary, because they're in the aviary already. These are canary nest kind of forms, the gold breasts like these, particularly. Then there's a whole bunch of this kind of style that's available. Little tiny, be suitable for a very small clutch, and gold breasts. Little different shape and size. Every manufacturer is a little bit different. These I like a little bit better because they're deeper in here, so by the time they fill it up with nesting material, there's still a nice deep chamber in there for the babies. So that's another manufacturer. And then this is another style that I like. It simulates the weaver nests. And my gray-headed olive backs love roosting in these type of nests. So not all of the nests are for babies. Sometimes they make them to sleep in at night, and so they love this kind of nest. But of course, if I put this in for sleeping, the other birds may steal it for their own purposes. So right now I don't have any in the aviary. But as soon as these guys kind of pick where they want to build their nest, then I can put this in for Tristan. And I think he will like it. Okay. And then, of course, despite having all these nesting things, the firefinches always build their own nest. Usually it's on the ground in some very inconvenient location. And they're doing that right now. They're building a nest between the surface of a rock and a branch that's laying over the top of it. And they're building their own nest in that space. And I'll show you that to the best of my ability, because they're pretty good at making these hidden. The parrot finches are building similar to where they did last year. Last year they used a closed nest box. Even though I have a closed nest box in there, I wanted to move it into the corner of the aviary because they get territorial around their nests, and I don't want them to dominate certain places in the aviary because they're important to the other birds to perch. And so I was trying to kind of encourage them into a corner. Well, they're like, no, we like this spot. And so now they're trying to build the nest, and I'm sure they will, in one of the divided perches that I built, which is right in the middle of everything. So yeah, I'm gonna have to think about that a little bit. It's important for me to try to keep the peace, but even species of finches that are normally easygoing and friendly, when they're nesting, they can be pissy. All right, so these are going to stay out for now. This is going to go in along with another one. Let's go check out the aviary.